back, guys, to another episode of Real Talk with J and T. But today it's only T, Tyeezy, because Jay got caught up. She's doing her internship. But today we have a really special guest. We have Mrs. Blocker here. I'm gonna let her do her introduction and what she does on campus. So go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Jade Blocker, and I am the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences academic advisor. I advise students up to about from 30 to 60 credit hours every day. And I also adjunct instruct, so I teach Tour 1101 and 1105, which is one of my favorite things to do. So I'm so excited to be here
Yes.
today.
So this episode is strictly about first year studies, do's and don'ts. So some of you guys that may watch this episode, this podcast was based off of first year studies because when you come to Troy University, you have to take a 1105 class, introduction to Troy, basically. And when I took the 1105 class my year, I felt like, the information was knowledgeable, but it was so much to the point to where the teacher didn't have enough time to teach us. So when I left the class, I didn't have the knowledge to, I guess, make Troy University more accessible.
Yeah.
So I was like, why not create a podcast so I can have people like you come on
Yes.
and explain more, like, what's happening in the classroom as well as what's happening outside the classroom. So let's hop right into it.
Okay.
So
Love that.
let's start with on the financial side. So what is the biggest financial mistake first year studies make?
Ooh, Lord. So many different mistakes I feel like they make in reference to financial mistakes. I think the biggest thing that freshman students fail to realize is the importance of financial aid, but making sure that your financial aid is lined up properly. I also feel like freshman students, and we could probably do a better job at this, but explaining exactly what a unsubsidized loan is, what a subsidized loan is. Also, what you have to pay back, what you don't have to pay back. I don't think they really understand that. When you come to college, it's a lot of information all in one. So they're like, okay, I've got to get through the admission process. I got to make sure I'm registered for classes. I got to go to It's a lot of information all in one. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, like making sure that your financial aid is lined up properly.
Yeah. And I think, like, going back to unsubsidized and subsidized loan,
Yeah.
like, I wish I would have had somebody, like, tell me beforehand,
Yeah.
which I caught the mistake at an early age, but like
Yes.
having somebody like actually talk about it would
Yeah.
have made a difference now, and especially like again, I didn't know the terminology what subsidized and subsidized meant.
Yeah.
I would have to pay back and all the good stuff as well.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
And still, I'm in school. I'm a student. I'm in graduate school right now. So it's still kind of difficult to figure out what subsidized and unsubsidized loans is. I have to go in there and Google and be like, hey, what is this? What am I getting myself into? So it's tough. It's difficult.
Okay, so the next question is, are there emergency funds or hidden campus resources students don't know about?
Yes. So a lot of students don't know about SEOG grant. So SEOG grant is money that you don't have to pay back that financial aid has to utilize. Now, it's grant-based, and everyone can't get an SEOG grant. There's specific requirements for that. But that is one of the most hidden gems, I would say. SEOG grant, emergency funds. So there's always emergency funds that could be utilized through Dean Reeves' office. I don't want to harp on that because I don't know like the ins and outs of that.
Right.
So you would have to go to Dean Reeves' office and ask about those emergency funds. But those are for student use as well. But the key word there is emergency.
Emergency, yes.
So yes, Grace is really good about Grace Wagstaff. Shout out to her; she's amazing. Grace is really good about kind of explaining those things to students if they can't get access to Dean Reeves immediately. So yeah, and I mean you can also email Dean Reeves too. He's going to email you back. But yes, that office has those funds.
So, like, this is real talk. So, guys, I've actually had to apply for emergency funds.
Yeah.
And so, pretty much the process is you'll go to Dean Reeves. He'll give you either a paper application or send you the digital copy in your email. And then you'll basically, I think there's like 2 or 3, actually. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I know I applied for one of them. And you'll actually have to explain why you need it. And then it'll get voted on by a committee. And then it'll go from there.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Yep.
So
And utilize those. If you don't go into the office and ask questions, you're not going to know that these things even
Right.
exist. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
yes. And in the Bible, you have not because you ask not. So,
Say that.
right.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give a student who feels embarrassed to ask for financial help?
Ooh, you're not the only one that's asking for financial help. Everyone doesn't come to college with the same resources. I spoke in church about this yesterday. Everybody doesn't come to college with the same resources. If you are ashamed to ask for help, you're going to always be in a financial situation where you can't kind of get above water. So do not be afraid to ask for help. I was blessed and fortunate enough to come to school on a GI Bill because of my father. And then now that I'm going back to school for my graduate degree, Troy University pays for that. I was blessed. However, I work with students every day who don't have those same resources. So I am pitching, go and ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's swap over to the academic side of things.
Yeah, okay.
So I think I kind of asked you this first question, but ask it again, just different format.
Okay.
So what is the number one reason freshmen fail their first semester?
Ooh, lack of studying. I feel like one of the main things that I talk about in my Troy 1105 class is the fact that you have to study. So college is not like high school. In high school, you may not have to study for every test. Right. You may kind of just can go just kind of slide by, but you have to study. And I also feel like one of the things that a lot of freshman students do when they come to college is try to get so actively involved in everything. Get involved. I'm not saying don't get involved. Get involved, but you don't have to get in everything. Just make sure that you prioritize your time. That's a huge one. Prioritize your time and make sure that your studies is high on the priority list.
And I'm a sophomore in college, and I'm still learning how to balance being involved in schoolwork.
Yeah.
But what we have to remember is it's student leader for a reason. Your academics come before anything that you're involved in after. Because if you're not maintaining your grades in the classroom, then 9 times out of 10 you're not eligible to be in that organization. Yeah. Simple as that. Yeah. So make sure you're emphasizing the student part of leaders. So So what should a student do if they bum their first test?
I talked about this yesterday in church too. You are not defined by a missed assignment. You are not defined by a failed test. Whenever you fail a test, learn what you could do better from failing that test. Learn what you didn't do on that test, what you can do or implement that next test. And also don't be afraid to talk to your instructors. Your instructors are there to help you and to guide you. If you need extra resources, there's so many different resources on campus. You work for TRIO, so you know all of those resources. In JWS, in the TRIO building, there's also a tutoring center. Utilize those resources because when you fail that first test, if you continue to fail those tests, that's going to result in a failed class. If you fail that first test at the beginning of the semester, that tells you that you need some assistance. Reach out to those resources. Right.
So going back to the test and in the classroom, what's your take on ChatGPT, AI?
Lord.
Yeah, there's been so many seminars about it. How do you use it? Like, what is from somebody that teaches a class? How do you feel about it?
The first thing I want to say is we can tell when students are using ChatGPT. Like, no matter what you do, no matter if you say, humanize this, make this, we know the ins and outs of ChatGPT. We know the words that you use. Let me give you an example. So if I ask you to do a bio, most students aren't going to put that bio in ChatGPT. Right. So we're going to know how you write based off of that bio, the first discussion that you submit. However, when you submit a discussion that next week or the week after that and it's formulated properly, all of the punctuations are lined up, I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, they ChatGPT this. However, now I will say ChatGPT is amazing. It's an amazing tool, but you have to know how to use that tool. Yep. It is not one of those things where you're like, oh, no, you cannot use ChatGPT. You have to know how to utilize it. And when you start utilizing it in reference to cheating on your assignments, that's when it gets kind of sticky. But if you're using it as a tool to help you learn, that's when it can be a positive.
And I just AI, I feel like since it's been in place, my generation does not know how to critically think besides itself. Because if you take it away and then you have them actually sit down and write an essay, you'll see the major difference between AI and actually having to do it yourself. Yeah. So I'm in a class right now, history class, and we have to cite in Chicago style. I've never had to cite in Chicago style at all. Yeah. And so I asked her, I was like, hey, can I use ChatGPT to cite, help me cite in Chicago style? And she was like, yes, but make sure you cite that you use ChatGPT or AI, whatever it is. I was like, okay, I'll just make sure it's clear with you first because I don't want to be like, hey, you use ChatGPT to do this and you didn't cite it. Yeah. So like you said, there's ways to use it responsibly, but my generation chooses not to use it responsibly. Hey, some people
feel like, I understand it. I mean, because I have been a student before, so I understand the student point of view. But as an instructor, we want to know what you think. We want to know how you feel. We want to know what you know. And that's the reason why we're asking you the question. And also, if you use ChatGPT and your answer is perfect, we're not going to know what we need to correct. So just make sure that we're utilizing that perfectly. But we want to know what you know, not what ChatGPT knows. I think, too, like with the generation, it's so easy, and not even just your generation, but my generation, too. Like, I think everybody just kind of wants the easy route out. But nothing worth having is easy. I have always been told that, and I always tell my students that. Nothing worth having is easy. If you work for it, you're going to appreciate it a little bit more. So work for it.
So let's dive a little deeper.
Okay.
So on the mental health and adjustments type side of things.
Yeah.
So what are signs that freshmen are struggling mentally?
Failed grades is one of the biggest signs that that students are failing. I think a lot of students were comfortable with being in high school. Their parents were waking them up. They had someone there to actually tell them what to do. When you're in college, it's very different. College is so much more than what the naked eye sees. Like, people who haven't been to college, it's so much more than that. So you have to get up and go to class on time. You have to make sure that you are prioritizing. You've got to make sure you're calendaring. So this is a lot for a 18-year-old, if you think about it. So one of the main things that I have seen is failing grades in students. Another thing that I've seen, and I try to kind of create an environment in my classroom where students feel comfortable with talking to me. So a lot of students have actually, kind of told me some of the things that are bothering them. And some of those things that they share is just being away from home, being away from their family. Loneliness, they haven't found their people. They haven't been getting out of their dorm room, getting involved in different organizations on campus because they may be introverted. But yeah, so that's one of the biggest, loneliness.
And I feel like I want to hear your point of view of this because an episode is going to come, foreshadow, we asked the same question or we brought this topic up.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a disconnect between the student and the faculty. Simply when students come to faculty with a problem or a question, I feel like, or multiple people feel like there's no urgency. And that kind of pushes the students away from actually asking the faculty or being vulnerable with you guys. What's your take on that?
I get that, and I feel that because oftentimes faculty is so bogged down with paperwork, maybe a lot of emails that they have to do, and they have to grade papers, and they have to go to class and teach. Not making that as an excuse, but I do feel that. And we as academic advisors have a college advising meeting that we go to every other week with our boss, and we have been talking about some of these things. So that's why, hopefully, if you have a college advisor in your college, you feel comfortable going to that college advisor because your advisor could be the liaison between you and that faculty member. So if you don't get an answer from your faculty member, come to your academic advisor and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Can you help me with this? Right. And that if we don't know the answer to that, we will try our best to help you or find somebody that knows the answer to that. But also, you've got to prepare for the things that you need. So if you're missing an assignment or if you're late, you want your professor to email you back immediately when you've taken your time to shoot an email to that professor. So you've got to make sure that you're preparing. Stay on top of it.
Ooh, it looked like we having some technical difficulties, but you want to know something? This is the perfect time to make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you follow us on all of our other platforms, our link trees, and our Instagram.
Like, how can freshmen deal with homesickness?
So the way that I dealt with homesickness is I went home every weekend. That was not healthy. I'm from 30 minutes away. I'm from Enterprise. So when I first got here, I hadn't found my group. So I went back home. I drove those 30 minutes every Friday, and I came back on Sunday. The latest I could come back, so probably around 8-ish. But that is not the proper way to deal with it. I honestly believe, and I just said that don't get too involved, but get involved. I really feel like getting involved on campus, going to the student engagement office will allow you to kind of get acclimated with people and join an organization that you want to be in. Troy has over 200 and something organizations on campus. you're going to find something that you like, or you're going to find it. And if you don't, you can create whatever you want to create. You can create an organization that you like. But getting involved is probably the best bet. Getting out of your dorm room and attending Welcome Week events, attending homecoming events, attending events that Troy has on campus. Those things are meant for you to be able to meet your people. So I think that that's probably the best way to kind of deal with homesickness. I'm not a mental health counselor. I'm just going based off of experience. But I honestly feel like that's the best way to do it. If you connect with a professor that you feel very comfortable with, and I think that's probably how a lot of people are successful on campus, is they connect with at least one professor, and that professor becomes their mentor. That professor tells them, hey, this is what you should do. This is what you're good at. This is your strength. This is one of your strengths. This is one of your weaknesses. So if you can connect with someone on campus that can kind of help you get acclimated with other things on campus, I think that will help with homesickness.
Okay, so you mentioned a while back being introverted. So what advice do you have for introverted freshmen versus extroverted freshmen?
So we actually just spoke about this in Troy 1105 about 2 weeks ago. So one thing that I learned is while teaching Troy 1105 or Troy 1101 is that you have some students who are introverts, but you also have some students that can be introverts and they have a little bit of extrovert. So I really like to pay attention to my students. I like to know them by name. I like to know where they're coming from. I like to know what's interesting about them. On the first day of class, I always ask them, tell me an interesting fact. So I feel like that's one way for us to be able to kind of become one with our students. So I can go in and be like, hey, Sarah, this is what you're good at, this is what you're not good at, but this is one way that you can kind of hone on your strengths, okay? So we have this club called the Miss Elite Society that you can join, or we have, you're very strong, you're very strong when you say your words or when you're answering a question. You may want to join the debate team. So I feel like that's probably the best bet.
So I probably should ask this question early on in the interview. But I'm going to circle back around to the academics and the dropout rates.
Yeah.
So me and my friends last night went on a tangent of, PWI versus HBCU.
Okay.
So what do you feel like, as a freshman at HBCU, why do you feel like they drop out versus a freshman at a PWI?
Some people are just not prepared for college. You have high schools who have college career coaches, and they get their students prepared for college. When they get to college, I'm not sure. I've never worked at an HBCU. I've never been to an HBCU. But when they get to college, it may be kind of like a culture shock. Like, okay, I may have gone to a PWI high school, or however you say high school. But they may have gone to that kind of high school, and then they get to a HBCU, and it's kind of like, a culture shock. Like, everybody looks like me, but I'm not. I may not be able to kind of hone in like I did while I was in high school. So it may be that. I think the number one reason why students don't come back a second semester here is financial reasons. I think that a lot of students get confused on the financial aid side of things. They have a balance and they don't know how to pay that balance. Even though in Troy 1105 we pitch it, make sure your financial aid looks right. Make sure your financial aid looks right. And they may not always make sure that their financial aid looks right. I think another thing, too, is there's a lot of classes that you have to take all at once. And then you don't have anyone calling you, or sometimes you may, but you don't have anyone calling you saying, hey, did you study for this test? Because your mama doesn't know that you have a test on Friday. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I think a lot of students may lack some study, like we talked about earlier, some study habits. I think that's a big one, too. I think the number one is the financial reasons.
I can say from on my side of things, I'm a part of an organization called 101 Elite Men, and one of the guys that transferred here from HBCU was saying how the work, the classes and the courses are way more strategic and actually requires you to critically think here at a PWI, whether at an HBCU. He transferred from Miles College, and he said he was making 100s, 104s, 103s on all his classes, and his dad was not satisfied with that because he knew for a fact that it was mediocre. The classes, he was saying, one of his public speaking classes literally got 100 for showing up and just gossiping, not actually learning anything or how to public speak. And he was just basically getting a grade for attendance.
Yeah.
Whether when he came here, he knew his son was going to be more challenged and being like, when it comes to critically thinking, getting resources, all that good stuff. So, it's kind of great to see different point of views from the admin side, student side of why, APWI, HBCU, dropout rates and all that good stuff.
And I also think, too, it depends on what college you go to. I have a cousin that she's more like a sister to me, and she went to Alabama State University, and she said the complete opposite. She was like, I just feel like it was harder for me because I had so many people holding me accountable and telling me that I needed to work harder, and telling me that I needed to study, telling me what to study for, telling me that, yes, you made an 85 on this test, but you're better than an 85. You need to make up, and this is what you need to do to make that. So it just, I guess it just depends on the school.
And I also think, I love PWI, I love HBCUs.
Yeah.
And I feel like we can both learn things from different. For example, when I toured ASU, before I came to Troy, shout out to my career coach. She's the reason why I'm at Troy University.
Yes.
So shout out to her. One thing I loved when I went there is, in order to get into the business building, you have to dress business professional.
Love it.
Every day. Or you can't get in. And it was a shocker to me when I came here and was over one-on-one. Half the guys didn't even have a blazer. So it's like, that's something I feel like we should pull from, from there. So,
For sure.
yeah. So I ask you questions. What questions do you have for, student, on a student point of view?
Yeah. So you're involved in so many different organizations. What is one thing that you would tell your freshman self?
One thing I would tell my freshman self, I would actually say, when you're going out to get involved, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Find something that you actually care about, and then pick the organization or the club based off what you care about.
Yeah.
Because I can say I'm a part of the things that I actually care about, but I'm also a part of things that it just look good for resume.
Yeah.
Resume reasons.
That's real.
And so to say, that's life, reality. And that's one thing I do wish I would have took time to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't regret anything, but that's one thing I do regret, is actually sitting down and picking the organization I'm a part of strategically.
That's really good. I think oftentimes, people, when you come to these different, orientation sessions, and then if you talk to someone who has been to Troy, they're like, get involved, get involved, get involved. So in these freshmen, in their minds are like, okay, I need to join all the organizations that I can join. And then when they come to Impact, they go to the browsing session and they see so many different organizations. They're like, ooh, I want to join this one. I want to join that one. And then they kind of forget the fact that you're at Troy to graduate. You're at Troy for academics. You're at Troy, for all of these things. Yes, it is great to get involved, but you have to kind of have a time balance. And as a freshman, it's hard to do that.
It definitely is.
It's hard to do that if you haven't done that in the past. If you're new to being involved, it's very hard to.
It is. So I guess to wrap up our episode, what advice do you have for every student, just in general?
Lord, so many. The first one that I want to say is the morals and values that you grew up with, don't lose those when you come to college. I think people will respect you more if you stand on the principles of what your parents instilled in you. And if it wasn't your parents, maybe a preacher, maybe somebody, stand on those morals and values. The second one that I would say that I think, I don't want to say your generation, because my generation had social media too. But you learn these things as you grow. Just because you have what I think they call it a spam. Just because you have a spam does not mean that we cannot see the things that you put on your spam. So watch what you say. Watch what you say. Watch what you do. Watch what you post. Because those things can kind of they have a way of getting out there, and it can affect you in your future. It can affect you getting involved in organizations on campus. It can affect your job long term. This is Troy, but Troy has a really huge alumni population. And I know several people from my class and the people that I went to Troy with are doing very well for themselves. They come back to homecoming and they ask me, hey, do you know anyone in the accounting that's an accounting major, or do you know anyone that's going to school to be a lawyer, and I want to be able to say, oh, yeah, that's such and such. But if I see you doing something terrible on your social media, you know, I'm not going to recommend you for that. So watch what you post. Everything, you can have fun, but everything doesn't have to be posted. Everything doesn't have to be posted.
And I told the guys at one-on-one one time at our meeting, I was like, you know, be like your appearance, whether it's social media or physical, like not physical appearance, but like how you dress and carry yourself is your business card. So like, you know, be careful what you do because you never know who's watching. And it's like, you know, oh, he's a part of one-on-one. Is that what they allow him to do? Being a part of one-on-one? So I'm not saying not have fun, but be mindful what you do, what you say, again, what you post, all that, because you have to carry yourself to a higher standard, especially if you're trying to get involved on campus, trying to make network relations and all that good stuff. Because your digital footprint is a thing. People will look back at your social media or anything and see how did you carry yourself throughout college, how do you carry yourself now. So be careful with what you do. So and a lot of people get caught up in that, so
all of the time. And I feel like it's such a cliche answer, but it's something that needs to be said. And I was talking to one of my mentors on campus about it. I'm like, what can we do to kind of get the word out to students? If y'all have any ideas, come to me and let me know, because we're still working on that, figuring out what we could do.
Also, where can they find you, like on campus?
Yes. Okay. So 114 Hawkins Hall is my office number. My doors are always open. If you need anything, my email is jlblocker@troy.edu. Come see me. If you have any questions, if you need resources, if you just need to talk, come see me. I'll be more than glad to help you. I have a book of resources in my office. If I don't know the answer to a question or if I don't know how to help you, I'll find somebody that does.
Again, thank you, Ms. Blocker, for being a part of this episode.
We'll
definitely ask you to come back.
Yay!
Again, for you guys out there, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, reshare, repost. And we'll catch you in the next episode.
All right.